the back here. Oh, little sidestep and a jam by Wembanyama.
Drive. Oh, it's knocked away by Wembanyama.
This is the Morning Huddle on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star with Rob Thompson and the managing editor of Blogging the Boys, RJ Ochoa. Now, here's Rob and RJ.
Hey, gather around. We got something to talk about. It's the Morning Huddle here on San Antonio Sports Star. That's RJ Ochoa, father of Roel and partner of mine. Hello, sir. I appreciate the Dallas Cowboy blue today. The Under Armour. It looks good. So
it feels like a deep blue, almost a purple. And so just kind of.
What's the logo
Monday
beneath
color.
the Under Armour? I can't see it from here.
It says Vail, Colorado.
Oh, that's a Vail. Is that a golf?
Yeah.
Was that a golf outing there at Vail at Eagle? Is that the Eagle
I
course?
didn't go there.
Oh.
My parents went and brought this.
I
as a
played golf at
souvenir.
that course amongst the in the mountains there. It's in Avon, Colorado. So I think right there. Beautiful
Look at
course.
you, how cultured you are, Robert.
Yeah, man. I am indeed culture. I speak to you with one pinky sticking out at all times.
Your shirt looks pretty purple and floral as well. You got some Andy Reid vibes going on this
well,
morning.
you know what? I carry that Andy Reid vibe in a lot of ways. I say nuggies as well. The San Antonio Spurs gave us a nugget last night. That's a terrible transition, but we don't have a lot
That
of time.
worked, dude. No, believe in it. That was great. Nobody was doubting it until you did.
Well, it's not a lie if you believe it. Which is I defy you, all Seinfeld fans, come up with the ultimate quote from the series. The quote.
I was in the pool.
That's a good one. And if you have any more for all of you that like to see yourself on the scroll, type something there. How do you do that? Go to SA Sports Star there on the YouTube feed, and you can watch us live. We request that you do that every day. And every time that you see RJ, we want you to like it.
Pay the like
prove
tax.
And also pay the like tax too, which we had a couple. We had some like taxpayers.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Do you know, Rob, at what point the Spurs achieved a positive win probability?
You like that stat at the tip?
Well, no, but
the earliest, or what was the earliest moment where they had a high win percentage?
I was going to say what the moment that they achieved one was and never relinquished it.
Oh, okay.
Spurs won on Sunday night, 117-105, but
About
second one in a row.
8 minutes to go? 8-9 minutes?
With 6:14 left in the third quarter.
Ooh, earlier than
the
that.
Spurs took a 52.3 win percent probability. They were in the black at that point, the silver and black, so to speak. And while it did fluctuate a little bit, it never got that low again. There was a little bit of a scare there in the fourth where it jumped back up almost back to 50%, but still was in their favor. They never relinquished odds to win the game from 6 minutes and change to go in the third quarter. That's a really strong thing and a point of growth for this team.
That now keep in mind, I'm not quantifying or qualifying the win because it's a good win against a playoff team. They don't play any defense. The Pacers play none. But on the other side of that,
grateful.
No, I am grateful because Coach Pop has always had a difficult time with the Pacers, and in particular the head coach of the Pacers, Rick. His name just fell out of my brain as I was going through there. So it was a great win, but above and beyond the way that they won, it's the attack that they brought. That was a team that came out to win a basketball game, and it felt like the entire game that was going to happen. When you said when did they get into the black, I kind of felt like about 5 minutes in. Now we've had drops and lapses and all kinds of other stuff, but they just kept at it. And coming out of the third, again, it was a team that's starting to, I think, get it a little bit, but I think it's more about Pop's cracking the whip a little bit. I think there's a little bit more of ramifications for actions than there has been. And I think we're seeing a little bit more of an active basketball team. I'm being stat list for Wemby.
Oh, dude, we're past.
This is getting nuts, man. And what he's doing is the 2 wins is going to add a few more eyes on the Spurs. But what he's doing as a rookie, this is ridiculous. It really is crazy. And it just, again, begs the question, why haven't there been more stacked wins? Why haven't we seen more of this? But the number that I'm looking at that just blew my mind is right now, Wemby is averaging 0.73 points per minute this season.
That's so stupid.
It would be
It's
the
impo-
most in a season by a rookie since Michael back in 84, 85.
So I think what is terrifying from a Wemby perspective, if I mean not for us, but for everyone else, is the casualness with which this happens. You know what I mean? Like that's my constant takeaway is maybe you'll say yes, but does it ever look to you like he is like, I mean, he is in fifth gear? You know what I mean? Does it ever look to you like this is requiring 100% effort for him? Like, does it really look like we have seen the, the full emptying of the tank? And I don't mean that at all as an indictment, like, oh, he hasn't done that, throughout the season, blah, blah. It is in no way a point of criticism. It is again, it's not a rec league practice or anything like that, but it's still the NBA, but it doesn't feel like he's really having to push himself places. And again, not a criticism. He flirted with another 5x5 night again.
Oh, that's going to be a Wemby.
But like it was the nothingest big deal of all time. And the 3 ball is coming along. And that I think is the real difference. Shout out to Brett Usher who tweeted this out this morning. Over his last 20 games on Wemby is 40.2% on 5.1 3-point attempts per game. So he's the last 2 games, granted, really small sample size, north of 70%. But I mean, that's 20 games is a really large sample size. So that was the one legitimate criticism we had of his, and that is starting to round itself into form.
It certainly is. And as his shooting has rounded into form, it's funny how the defense has started to play in. Pop, post game yesterday, talked about his young superstar.
The most, not surprising, but unique quality he has at his age is the composure you just talked about, where if there's a good play, there's a bad play, he's the same. He's class all the time on the court. His teammates realize that he's mature way beyond his years, and he proves it every night.
Coach Popovich post game after the Spurs dispatched the Indianapolis Pacers pretty handily last night. It didn't, and while it took till 6 minutes to go in the third for it to really look in the black and stay that way, the final 117-105 was pretty indicative of the game. While Wemby just continues to astound, and every time we come back, I almost feel obligated to give you another ridiculous stat, and I could do it all show long. Every time we say Wemby, I come back with something else, like he's on pace to be the first player to average 20, 10, 3, and 3 assists and 3 blocks in a season since Shaq did it in 99-2000, and Shaq won the MVP.
He's also the first rookie in NBA history, this was from StatMuse on Sunday night, with back-to-back 25-10, 5-5 games, all of which are, or both of which are 4x5 games. That's 5 assists, 5 blocks. Again, it's really, really, it feels like it's becoming old. It's not old at all. And he's making these really impossible things seem so mundane. You know what I mean? That they just seem so, like you said, it's going to be a Wemby. Like it's the most just casual. It's aloof. You know what I mean? Like there's an aloofness to how he plays. And what was really fun about Sunday night was it rippled into everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was just like a Spurs showcase. I mean, we got Devin, obviously, although he's been coming along great for him. How about Malachi? I mean, what a game on Sunday night. Your boy Blake obviously had the big dunk, and everybody loved that. But
he's a killer.
He is so fast. I mean, that was so fast. But that's the part of, I don't mean to take away from these players, but that's part of the Wemby effect is a rising tide lifts all boats. And that really happened on Sunday night against the Pacers.
More than any other, I think Devin is starting to get exactly what you said. The rising tide lifts everyone's boat. Pop post game talked about the best part of the second of 2 consecutive wins.
Best part of the game was being in the fourth quarter and standing up to their run when they got ahead, they cut it to 4, they went ahead, whatever it was. But we kept our composure and continued to execute, and that was the best part of the game.
When we come back, we always bring you a Wemby stud stat line. He's the only player with 175 assists, 175 blocks, and 75 three-pointers in a season in NBA history. Yet another stat that just blows me away. as they've gotten 2 wins. And while Wemby and his 3-point shooting, I think, cannot be overstated. I mean, the value of him hitting open threes just opens up that court for layups, for the Blake dunks, for the Malachi mid-range. Those threes mean something to it. But more than anything else, Pop was all in on their defense.
Well, it starts with the defense. You got to play the D, you got to board to get the ball. But after that, I thought we kept our composure. We ran only a couple of plays down the stretch, over and over again for obvious reasons. And we got some good cuts. We got some free throws. They did a good job.
Wemby
Rob,
has,
I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
So Coog says in the Brigade Bar, because you've been kind of Eeyore about this whole thing. If I'm
now, here we
call
go.
you out a little bit.
Yep.
Coog says, is it a good thing or a bad thing to be playing like this going into next season?
That
I still wouldn't feel bad if half the team is gone next year.
No, you're right, Cougs, and half the team will be gone next year. It's the only bad thing about this is we are sacrificing draft balls. But this draft, to be real, this draft, you could invert the top 10 and there wouldn't be a lot of argument. You could say 10 is number 1 and number 1 is 10, and the variance between those 10 different dudes isn't that much. Beauty's going to be in the eye of the beholder this draft more than it has been in a bit. There's a lot of talent. There's just not a lot of great. There's no great, quite frankly. So that does affect draft, but Cougs, we do need to win basketball games. We need to learn how to win. But I think what I find aggravating isn't the right word, but what I find now as we start putting pieces together and look at the breadcrumbs that we've dropped on this trail since October was the intent was to do just this. You can tell by the way the minutes were monitored with Wemby, how they've slowly grown, and with more minutes have come more production. You can tell that as we have found niches, as the bench has been set and Keldon finding his way, and despite his shortcomings, Trey has found his way, and Devin has started to understand that this is something that by design is where we are. This was the plan all along. Injuries always play a role, but this team is fully and has been fully capable to win 2 and 3 games in a row. Is it a good thing? Yes, this team needs to learn to win. But if this process was done with 1, to improve Wemby and get him, NBA savvy and ready and weighted and everything else that's appropriate, and then 2 was to grow everybody else, and then 3 was to win games, that's fine. Here we sit. We've done it. But we were fed a bill of goods. We were told in training camp that what we're seeing now, we'd probably see in December, that they would round into form, and this would be a 9th or 10th seed team that would win 2 or 3, lose 2 or 3, but really stay pretty close to around 500. That hasn't been the case, and it was on purpose.
I think they overestimated their own abilities with all of this, and maybe even underestimated Wemby, as ridiculous as that sounds. And the two finally, met a level of equilibrium where, the effects of what they're trying to do have started to take hold, and Wemby has just kind of surpassed everything and been able to kind of take hold of everything himself. But you mentioned win 2 or 3 games in a row. Spurs have won 2 in a row for the first time since when, Rob?
Oh, gosh. December, opening week. I mean,
no,
how long has it been?
It was January 26th and 27th when they beat Portland, and then had that crazy T-Wolves win.
That's
and then
right.
They lost to Washington. So they're on the precipice of winning 3 in a row for the first time all season. Wow.
They get the Rockets on Tuesday.
And they get a chance to tie the assist record. So lots of history at stake on Tuesday night in Houston.
Every time we bring up the Spurs, we have to give you another record or something remarkable about Wemby. This one, he's averaging 20 in 23 consecutive games with 15-1 is the second longest streak by a rookie since blocks became official in 73 and 74. And only David Robinson has span, and that's 41 games. So about 18 more games. We'll see that record fall as well.
They're also undefeated since Wemby cursed in celebration.
So we ask him to continue to curse at us and around us, both pre and post game. We've seen post game a couple of times. Now we need a little bit of pre-cursing, a little bit of early curse outs to kind of kick things off.
This is, I'm fine risking the, extra ping pong balls in the name of, we talked about culture with the Dallas Cowboys. You cannot have all these dudes, however many are on the roster next year, just thinking they're a bunch of losers. You cannot. Like this is worth, it's worth rounding into form. It's worth kind of softening some of these edges so that what you have next season is not only malleable but is comfortable. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. 2 wins, right now don't change much. Wemby continuing to go off doesn't change much, but I mean, it does help you feel like some of these parts are serviceable and usable, which didn't feel the case a week ago.
One of the complaints about the Spurs of the many was uninspired, ignorant basketball, where it just didn't feel like the guys on the court knew what was going on, or at least didn't try hard enough to make it appear that they were doing just that. And Don Harris of News 4 had mentioned that more than once and had called out Devin Vassell more than once. One for taking a shot that probably shouldn't have, or at the very least.
I mean, we know he shouldn't have. It's okay.
And his inability to find Victor on a 3-4 times a night. And Don Harris, News 4 has called him out a couple times. Well, Devin clapped back after the Oklahoma City win, right? Was that what it was? And we'll pull it up here in a second. But the gist was kind of like, yeah, you stupid. What? Kind of. Devin, we understand that you're playing better. You are, but 2 wins doesn't make a champion. Just don't pay attention to the socials.
I mean,
just keep playing.
This doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
The exact verbiage was "Stop hating, bro. Just enjoy the dub."
Yeah.
Hashtag GSG.
Don't let us know you're listening.
I'm not trying to act like being a professional athlete is easy and tuning out the outside noise is easy, but I mean, let's relax.
Okay, so Cougs ask, is it good that we're here and we got a couple of games, and more importantly, as a fan, it's awfully nice to watch a team weather storms and not just quit. It's nice to watch come out in the third. The things that as Spurs fans, you just get used to. You get used to winning timeouts, or at least us old-time Spurs. You're used to a timeout being called, and whatever the reason for it being called, the fix was imminent. You'd see it immediately, whether it was a called play, whether it was a defensive setup, whether it was something that Pop saw. It's been so long since we've had that on a regular basis that you could just feel comfortable that when they're coming out of a timeout or a dead ball, that whatever was going to happen well, because Pop had something to do with it. And the players were capable of executing exactly what Pop wanted to get done. And I don't think we'd seen that for a minute. And we're starting to get that sense. You start to get that sense that Pop doesn't have to call a timeout, that they might be able to fix things on their own. That when they're coming out of a third, out of halftime, that first couple of minutes won't be utter confusion because they didn't react to what the other team decided to do at halftime. And then the weathered storms, the getting shots in your eye and coming back and getting one yourself, or getting a defensive stop the next time around. Those little things that add to wins. That's why these are valuable. These do matter, especially with 2 teams that we saw in Oklahoma City, who, by the way, just took control of the West. They beat them.
They looked great on Sunday night.
They did, man. Now, we kind of poked the bear. I think we kind of woke them up as they were headed out. But there is some value to those wins, even though you're losing ping pong balls.
Not necessarily Spurs related, but how funny would a Minnesota Oklahoma City Western Conference Finals be and be like, yeah, y'all are welcome.
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
we owned you both.
we woke you both up. You know what I mean? So that's great. But no, I agree. And that's, we talked about that Timberwolves game, right? Like, there's value in learning how to close games out, learning how to weather storms. That was what Pop said, obviously, about defense. And, when things got a little bit tight and sticky, he mentioned when it got down to 4, actually got down to 1. The lead shrunk, right, as small as 1 there at the end. And so you've got to go through those things to understand, how to play, how tight and loose you can be in certain situations. And so these are instructive opportunities. And if the T-Wolves and Thunder are any sort of representation of it, we just gave the Pacers the kiss of prominence, and now they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And we poked the bear. You talked earlier about Malachi and Blake.
Dude, what a game!
Malachi was phenomenal. Big shots, big times, all that we like about him. But at Blake Wesley's defense on Halliburton cannot be overstated.
No, I mean, Halliburton really, this was the, TJ McConnell went off in this game. I guess, I mean,
We didn't scout him.
yeah. But you're right. I mean, it is, there's some, look, when you lose those games, it kind of sucks, but there is something nice to, okay, we're not going to let your superstar beat us. And so, kudos to your boy Blake in that capacity. I know you got a thing for Blake, so I'm happy
do.
for you.
You talked about his speed, and that speed on defense matters, but he also, the pace, and he's a willing passer, but he's able to get to the rim in ways that you really don't know what to do when he's on the court. Wemby, it is something interesting to watch, and with every passing game, you get the sense that we like Trey, but the long-term possibilities here look more and more like Blake as the backup as we kind of start to close out this regular season. Things behind the scenes of the Spurs are making some roster moves. They converted Dominic Barlow's contract from the two-way to the standard NBA deal. That's huge news for this guy. Remember, he was undrafted. He was a high school All-American, a G League type. He got every bit of talent and, got here raw. This kid hadn't done anything but played in the G League and played himself into a regular NBA deal. It's Bassey-esque. They found another one. This guy looks like an NBA, 8-year, 9-year vet if he plays his cards right. And he's gotten it together with the Spurs. It's a guy that will be cheap, who looks like an excellent end of the bench kind of athletic that good basketball teams have.
No, I think that's really well said. Today is all about props. You did it. You earned it. So here are your flowers. Rob and I, we went and picked them. Rob even cut the bottoms and put them in a vase with water. And so, it doesn't change everything, but today, good for you.
That's going to be, speaking of flowers, my house is full of flowers right now. Full.
Are you allergic?
Well, it's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
When you leave your house and then you come back and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What's the lifespan of an arrangement of flowers? Because normally you get one, and it sits over someplace, and then it sits there and you watch it kind of slowly wilt. You pick up the leaves around it, and then finally it's like time to go.
I think
go multiply that times like 12.
I think 7 to 9 days.
I think I'm
lifespan.
starting to reach my limit. I think we're running out of time on these things. It's not.
Do you have some vases that you get to keep as a result?
Lots of generic vases vases are in the Thompson Casa.
Vassels.
It's something like that.
What I'm saying?
It's a murder of vases.
Yeah, well, Devin Vassels.
Devin Vassels. The offense is clicking because Wemby is hitting. Watch the emphasis on Wemby getting those threes. It is more important right now in their offensive flow for Wemby to get threes than dunks.
That's such a great and subtle point. I mean, it really is. And it sounds obvious, but it unlocks everything. I mean, it unlocks him. It you know what I mean? Like it in 5 for 7, and 3 for 4. I mean, really, really, really small sample size, but if he can, you don't have to shoot 70%.
No,
nobody's asking that. But this was a criticism of his. If there was one thing he was, mortal at, even beneath that, I would argue in the early parts of the season, it was from downtown. But he has worked hard and righted that wrong, and starting to see something really special. When we have a 5x5.
When we bring him up, we give him his props. He has 5 games with 25, 5, and 5 this season, the most by a rookie since blocks became official back in 73-74. He's the 5th player to do this 5 times in a season. Again, that 73-74 comes into play. The first since Shaq in 01. The others who have done it, we've seen it before from David, Hakeem, and Kareem. He's done it with less than a full season under his belt. It's hard to fathom what he's doing. And if the Spurs were even 500, I'll tell you what, he would be an MVP candidate. If the Spurs were 500 or close, we'd be talking about he wouldn't be the MVP. There's 4 dudes better that but he would be on the ballot and he would get a vote or two. And it wouldn't just be coming from our good friends, Jeff and Tom.
And the defensive play of the year stuff would hold a little bit more water, certainly. And That's why these are individual awards, but there's an element of team success, and that he doesn't have that. It's why he wasn't an all-star, which is a bummer. But let this season, which didn't have to be this way, but let it be a lesson that you learn and never repeat ever again, please.
The record will fall in less than a week. That's 20 assists per game, 120 consecutive. It will tie on Tuesday, we expect.
Don't say that, dude. Don't jinx it. I mean,
well, we've come to find out that 20 assists must be pretty easy to do because we continue to do it, and only have managed to stack 2 wins together about 6 times during this streak.